Good morning, good morning, good morning. And thank you for joining New York State Department of Veterans Services and our co-host, faith-based partner, Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly. I am everybody's favorite moderator, Dr. Leslie Branch. And we are so glad that you could join us today, and we encourage you to engage with one another in the chat. Our New York State Department of Veterans Services team members will be engaging in the chat, sharing relevant and pertinent information regarding benefit claims for those who have served and their family members, as well as information on upcoming events. And if you are a faith-based or a community-based partner or organization and would like to partner with the New York State Department of Veterans Services on community engagement or community outreach, our colleagues will be sharing information in the chat about how you can connect with us. We are happy to help you establish your veterans ministries, as well as help you establish health and wellness ministries as well. So we have a wonderfully engaging program for you today, and it is entitled From Acknowledgement to Action, Enhancing the Lives of Black and Brown Veterans. And this program has its genesis in the great work that the VA and the NAACP are doing to partner around acknowledging the disparities that exist and are historical with regard to Black and Brown veterans who have served and who are not being compensated or acknowledged at the rates that they should be. And so, again, we have an insightful program, and today's convening delves into an imperative conversation addressing the historical and the current disparities that are faced by Black and Brown veterans in receiving adequate benefits and recognition for their service. This courageous conversation that we're going to have today aims to foster collective effort within beloved community to identify and serve marginalized veterans and their families across New York State. And we aim to do this by bringing together the veteran community, the faith-based community, the Veterans Administration, local NAACP chapters, through New York State Department of Veterans Services Faith and Serve Initiative. And so the discussion that we plan to have today strives for equitable and just outcomes for all who have served. I'd like to give a special thanks to our faith-based partner, the house where I worship and am fed, Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly, under the leadership of Bishop Designate Reuben Spence Thompson and Assistant Pastor Elder Sharon Hodge. Thanks also for your yes to the slate of participants today. And we couldn't have brought this wonderful programming to the public without your yes. So I want to applaud you and thank you. And for those who are participating as attendees, if you have questions specifically for the panelists, we ask you to place those in the Q&A section of the platform so they can be readily identified and raised when we get to the Q&A section of our program. All right, so with that out of the way, I want to have you put a warm welcome for Mr. Lorenzo Bell, who will sing for us the national anthem. But before he sings, I want to read to you some of his amazing background. Mr. Lorenzo Bell is a dynamic and energetic performer. He was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Mr. Bell has performed with various bands and as a solo artist in the United States and abroad. Mr. Bell has opened and performed with acts such as Mary J. Blige, KC and the Sunshine Band, the Manhattans featuring Gerald Alston, Evelyn Champagne King, James J.T. Taylor from Kool and the Gang, Harold Melvin's Blue Notes, Blue Magic, Kool and the Gang, Heat Wave, First Choice, the Ladies of Sky, the First Ladies of Chic, the Jacksons, and more. So if he is able to perform with them, y'all know this brother has some pipes, all right? And also, Mr. Bell performs with his tribute bands, the Bells 2.0, a duet R&B singing group with his wife, Dr. Anika Bell, and the Men of Soul. I welcome now Mr. Lorenzo Bell to honor us with the national anthem.
Thank you. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets break glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free, the home of the brave.
Amazing. Thank you so very much for that rendition, Mr. Bell. We certainly appreciate you. Thank you again. All right. So now we will hear from the New York State Department of Veterans Services Commissioner, Reverend Viviana DeCohen, who will bring us words of welcome. But before we hear from Commissioner DeCohen, I need to let y'all know who she is, what she's doing, and why she is important. A little bit about Commissioner DeCohen. A veteran of the United States Marine Corps, Reverend Viviana DeCohen previously served as the Commissioner of Mount Vernon Veteran Services Agency. She is the Associate Pastor at Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church and First Lady at St. Michael's Methodist Church in Jersey City, New Jersey. Commissioner DeCohen has dedicated her time, her talent to addressing veterans, ensuring that they have food, shelter, clothing, education, employment, and dare I say, more than a little motivation. And this all has earned her the affectionate title of Mama V. Her military service allowed her to earn a bachelor's in behavioral science and a master's in health service management, both from Mercy University, where she received her start formally working with veterans and developing programs to enhance their academic and overall wellness. And she created 2 veteran centers. Commissioner DeCohen is the Veteran Affairs 2021 Trailblazer. Commissioner DeCohen is currently pursuing her doctorate in educational leadership and gerontology at Concordia University in Chicago. Let us listen attentively as Reverend DeCohen gives us welcome remarks.
Great morning, Dr. Leslie. Thank you so much. Everyone's favorite moderator, indeed. Great morning, everyone. I am so honored, as well as our Executive Deputy Commissioner Joel Evans in his absence, to welcome you to this special program from acknowledgement to action, enhancing the lives of our Black and Brown veterans. As we come together today to address crucial disparities faced by our Black and Brown veterans, we are truly gathered here today to commemorate Black History Month, but we must also recognize that our journey towards equality and injustice is ongoing. While we celebrate the achievements and contributions of Black and Brown individuals throughout history, it is also imperative that we confront the systemic barriers and inequalities that persist in our society, particularly within the veteran community. The theme of today's event underscores the importance of not only acknowledging the challenges faced by our veterans, but also taking concrete actions to address and discuss these disparities and improve the quality of life. Through open dialogue, collaboration, and a shared commitment to justice, we can work towards creating a more equitable and inclusive environments for all of our veterans. I want to extend a special thank you to our DVS team who worked so diligently for this program and working always towards equality for all of our veterans and families across this great state. Certainly to our amazing partner at the Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly for their support and collaboration in organizing this event, and to your esteemed bishop, and to all of our esteemed guests and speakers on today. Your dedication to serving our community is truly commendable. We are grateful for your opportunity to work together with you towards our shared goals, and always, I encourage each of you to actively engage in today's discussion. Share your insights, share your experiences, and more importantly, commit to taking meaningful steps towards positive change. Together, we ensure that every veteran, regardless of race or background, receives the support, respect, and opportunities to which they have earned and are so very deserving. Thank you all for being here today, and let us embark on this important journey together and keep on marching forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. We certainly feel welcome with those warm remarks. We will now hear the Black National Anthem from Ms. Belinda Barnes. But before she graces us, we will hear a little bit about Ms. Barnes' background. Ms. Belinda Barnes is a recording artist and an author, and she is known professionally as B. Renee. She is an Air Force veteran, a mother, a grandmother, a widow, a cousin, and she loves to sing, to make others laugh, and encourage those who come in contact with her. Belinda is grateful for God's presence in her life. Let us listen now as B. Renee sings the Black National Anthem.
Good morning, everyone. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as a listening skies. Let it resound loud as a roll, the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past
has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on. Everybody, we've got to let us march on. Holding hand in hand, let us march on. Don't look back, but look forward. Let us march on till victory is won. God bless
All
you.
right. Bless you, bless you. All right. Thank you for that soulful rendition of the Black National Anthem. B. Renee, simply amazing. Thank you. All right. I trust that everybody is happy and everybody is glad. All right. So we're going to now hear from the keynote in the person of Dr. Anika Bell. But before I do that, I have had the distinct pleasure of introducing and announcing everyone thus far. And I couldn't be prouder to introduce our keynote speaker for today's event, U.S. Navy veteran, Dr. Anika Bell, who oftentimes says that I invited myself to her life. But maybe I did, I don't know. But let me tell you a little bit about this amazing, amazing woman who this biography that she shared is just a tip of the iceberg of who Dr. Anika is. So here we go. Dr. Anika Bell's approach to life exudes focused determination and a belief that every experience provides a valuable lesson that leads to an opportunity for growth. She has overcome extraordinary challenges and has succeeded in every endeavor. And as a military veteran, entrepreneur, educator, her humanitarian spirit also moves her to devote volunteer hours to organizations that provide resources in community, resources that she herself utilized to propel her on her journey as a student at Mercer University, as well as when she was a doctoral student at St. John Fisher University. Dr. Anika Bell earned her bachelor's degree in 2017. And in 2018, she launched a successful construction and design company called Celebrities Quality Painting, Inc. And in the same year, she attained her MBA from Mercer University. So with 2 Mercer University degrees under her belt, Dr. Bell's increased confidence as a business leader moved her to undertake an adjunct professor position teaching business courses at Metropolitan College of New York. Dr. Anika Bell is a member of the National Association of Minority Contractors, and her work with veterans earned her the 2021 Volunteer New York Spirit Award for her volunteerism in transforming an office space inside Mount Vernon City Hall into a boutique-like resource closet, which has serviced hundreds of veterans to date. Most recently, Dr. Bell earned her doctorate from St. John Fisher University in Rochester. She focused her research on mentorship, an element that she finds crucial to the success of women of color in business. Her inestimable talents do not stop with her entrepreneurial and volunteer endeavors. I welcome now Dr. Anika Bell to present us with the keynote address for the day. Dr. Bell.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow. And I just want to say thank you for welcoming yourself into my life. So, good morning, good morning, good morning, all. And I just want to say thank you so much for everyone being here. It looks like we have over 100 people. And so I'm just so excited on today. It is with immense gratitude and a deep sense of purpose that I come before you today as we gather to address a matter of profound significance, honoring and enhancing the lives of our Black and Brown veterans. The theme of today's event speaks volumes about the urgency and responsibility that we collectively bear. But before I move any further, I would like to take this time to acknowledge the Commissioner of Veteran Affairs, Reverend Viviana DeCohen. Your presence here amplifies the significance of this cause. Your leadership and your dedication to the well-being of our veterans set an inspiring example for us all. I would also like to acknowledge our co-host faith-based institution, Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly, under the leadership of my Bishop Designate, Reuben Spence Thompson, as well as Assistant Pastor Sharon Hodge, and all the other clergy who are attending today. Thank you. I must take this time to acknowledge and thank my fellow Navy veteran sister and friend, Dr. Leslie Branch, for inviting me to speak to you all today. Last, but certainly not least, I would like to thank all of my sisters and brothers in arms, as well as those who are on to support us. I thank you all for joining us as we embark on a journey of acknowledgement, understanding, and most importantly, action. Today is more than just an event. It is a commitment. It's an oath to ensure that the service and the sacrifices of our Black and Brown veterans receive the recognition, the care, and the support that we undeniably deserve. As we discuss the disparities in disability ratings among our veterans, let us remember that acknowledgement is only the first step. Again, I'll repeat, acknowledgement is only the first step. The true essence lies in the transformative power of action. The stories we share, the statistics we confront, and the challenges we unveil are not merely narratives. They are calls to arms, rallying us to advocate for fairness and equality. Today's event is not just a platform. It is a catalyst for change. We are here to elevate the voices that may have been muted, to bridge the gaps that may have been overlooked, and to ensure that the equity we seek is not just a goal, but a reality for every Black and Brown veteran. I thank you for joining us on this crucial expedition. And without further ado, let us dive into the heart of our discussion with determination and purpose. I not only speak to you today as a United States Navy veteran, but as a veteran who was a teenage mother who wanted more for herself and her sons. So I gave up temporary custody of them to my sister to serve my country, but was yet recently given a 0% disability rating. And for those who are on who don't understand, please let me explain. The Department of Veteran Affairs acknowledges that my illness is service-connected. However, they don't believe that my disability is worth any compensation. This is a prime example of the importance of not only understanding, but also addressing the equity gaps and the disparities that exist between minority veterans and non-minority veterans, and how the VA administers compensation benefits, how they determine disability ratings, and how they reject claim benefits. But it would be remiss of me not to provide factual information, as it is universally acknowledged that facts are indisputable. In other words, you can't argue with facts. So, according to a report by the U.S. Government Accountability Office from 2010 through 2020, non-Hispanic Black veterans had the lowest approval rates among all racial and ethnic groups, with only, you ready? 61% of their claims being approved, compared to 75% for white veterans. But I'll leave you with another statistic, just in case you didn't get that one. The VA data shows that from 2002 to 2020, nearly 30% of the disability claims filed by Black veterans were denied, when compared with a 24.2% rejection rate for those filed by white veterans. And I can go on and on and on, but I really just don't want to bore you. So the question is, how do we enhance the lives of Black and Brown veterans? We can enhance their lives by partnering with other organizations like we're doing today. Strategic partnerships increase awareness of VA benefits and services offered to Black and Brown veterans. These type of community partnerships could result in variations in support, guidance, and representation for Black and Brown veterans when navigating the disability claims process. We often believe that we can do everything by ourselves. I thought the same thing when I initially put in for my claim. However, after receiving such a low disability rating, and yes, 0 is a percent, that's when I realized that I needed assistance. So I reached out to the Veterans Benefit Advisor located at the Bronx VA, and I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Daniel Germain, and he helped me put in for my appeal, which I'm currently waiting for. He also assisted me with putting in other claims that I didn't even think about. I am sure that you have someone at your local VA that can assist you. And if you don't know who to contact in your area, well, guess what? You are in the right place to ask all of the questions that you may have. Before I end, I want to share a story with you to give my speech some context. And while I cannot provide specifics due to privacy concerns, I want to share the story of one of our fellow veterans that illustrates the potential impact of lower disability ratings on Black and Brown veterans. This story aims to highlight the challenges that veterans are currently facing. A Black veteran who served with honor and faced numerous challenges during deployment was honorably discharged. Post-service, the veteran experiences health issues related to their military service, but receives a lower disability rating than expected. This rating only allows the veteran to be seen for the disability they received the rating for. This low rating restricts access to critical healthcare services needed for their other disabilities, leaving them struggling to manage their health effectively. This veteran, despite the clear impact on their daily life, received a disability rating that falls short of covering the costs associated with their medical care and necessary accommodations. This veteran and their family face financial strain, unable to fully address their needs and maintain a reasonable quality of life. I'm sure that we all agree that this shouldn't be. No veteran should have to endure a lifetime of fighting. Some veterans have fought in war, and unfortunately, they are still fighting today. But now it's for compensation. Let's make it make sense. So, how do we move from acknowledgement to action? How do we become a part of the solution? First, we must get involved. We must take some actionable steps to make a difference. So I urge you to make personal commitments whether it's attending a local town hall meeting, participating in a volunteer program, or pledging to stay informed about veteran-related legislation. Let's support our appointed officials like Commissioner Viviana DeCohen, who is showing her commitment by attending this Zoom today. She was appointed, not elected, but appointed by Governor Hochul, because the governor knows that the commissioner's heart is for us, the veterans, because she too has served. So she understands firsthand what veterans need. Just last week, she went in front of the Senate and the Assembly to advocate for us. But that is what she has done for us. So now the question I want you to ask yourself is, what are you going to do? Are you going to just sit back and wait for changes to be made? Or are you going to put some action where your mouth is? Each individual's contribution, no matter how small, contributes to the collective effort. So I want to express gratitude for your time, your attention, and your commitment to being part of the solution. Your involvement is essential in creating a more just and equitable system for us, Black and Brown veterans. I thank you.
Amazing, amazing. All right. So you see why I invited myself to Dr. Bell's life. And we will continue this journey of friendship and sisterhood. Thank you so very much for that informative, inspiring, and insightful keynote. A call to action in and of itself. You can't sit by. This is not a spectator sport. If you want what all got, you must do what all do. And that was bad grammar on purpose to get your attention. All right. So we are now moving into the panel portion of our program. And what I want to let you know is how our discussion is framed, right? And so our moderated discussion is framed in the three core tensions that are discussed in a 2010 article on teacher education. And the title of that article is, "But What Can I Do? Three Necessary Tensions in Teaching Teachers About Race." And so I have a confession to make. I am a recovering associate dean of a business school and a former associate professor. I do still dabble in teaching at the adjunct level in a doctoral program. But this article and this question, what can I do, is apropos for the instant discussion. We tend to look at problems that we have and we magnify how big they are, right? But rather than looking at the big problem and shrinking back from it, what we should do is look at what we have in our hand, number one, but secondly, look at everyone who is similarly situated and join forces to conquer whatever the challenge or the issue is. Right? So before we delve into this courageous conversation, I want to take a few moments to introduce this amazing panel and share a little bit about their impressive backgrounds. So first up, we have Minister Conrad Washington, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who is presently the director of the Veterans Administration Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. Minister Conrad Washington serves in his current role as the director for the VA Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and he is retired from the United States Marine Corps with 20 years of active duty service, with a combat tour in 2004 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, the second. Minister Washington is a licensed and actively serving minister in his faith. And he received his master's degree of divinity in pastoral studies from Moody Theological Seminary. He holds a master's of arts degree in business management and a bachelor's of science degree in education. Additionally, Minister Washington is a graduate of the Veteran Administration's class of 2017 Virtual Aspiring Leaders Program. And he is a participant in the VA's Secretary Leadership Forum of 2023. Welcome to Mr. and Minister Washington. Our next panelist is Ms. Kathy Brewington, and she is presently the president of the Mount Vernon NAACP. And with a remarkable legacy of community service spanning over 3 decades, Ms. Brewington stands as a devoted spouse and mother of 5 children and a driving force with her family supporting nursing homes in the local area during the holidays. Ms. Brewington's commitment to community extends far beyond family, as she has actively participated in the Mount Vernon, New York PTA and has contributed significantly to the local education system by serving on the school board and other capacities in the Mount Vernon City School District. As the daughter of a Vietnam veteran and the mother of an Afghanistan veteran, Ms. Brewington carries a deep understanding of the sacrifices made by military families and brings a unique perspective to her community involvement. Ms. Brewington's dedication to advocacy is further evident in her past roles as the former education chair and the second vice president of the Mount Vernon NAACP, where she tirelessly works towards promoting educational equity and social justice. In addition to her various roles, Ms. Brewington has played a pivotal part in introducing young people to local and state politicians, fostering civic engagement among the youth. Ms. Brewington currently serves as the president of the Mount Vernon, New York branch of the NAACP, as I mentioned, and she also continues to be a prominent voice for equality and justice in the community. Ms. Brewington's multifaceted contributions underscore her commitment to making a positive impact on the lives of individuals and the broader community. Thank you for being with us today, Ms. Brewington. And rounding out the panel for today is Ms. Judith Watson, a U.S. Army veteran and Chief Executive Officer of Westchester Community Health Center, Mount Vernon. Ms. Judith Watson is the CEO of the Westchester Community Health Center, and she leads an organization comprising 9 centers. And those centers serve Greenburgh, White Plains, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, and Valhalla. Committed to her mission of ensuring equitable healthcare access and reducing health disparities, Ms. Watson tirelessly advocates for community by providing high-quality preventive primary care, specialty care, and behavioral health services in a supporting and respectful environment. Ms. Watson's journey began as a nurse at the Greenburgh site after leaving the Army as a sergeant. And now she also contributes her expertise to various community and hospital boards. And I might add that Ms. Watson was recently named to a very prestigious list of some of the most powerful people to be on the lookout for. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Watson. I appreciate all of the panelists. And so we will get started with our questions. All right, and so the first question, what can I do? Now, when the emphasis is placed on can, the question is structural in nature, and it's a question that critiques the ability to counteract structural or societal problems and their race and disproportional impact. And in particular, the race and disproportionality as it regards the historical and the current disparities faced by Black and Brown veterans in receiving adequate benefits and recognition for their service. So I'm going to put first this question to Ms. Watson, since I introduced her last. What is it can beloved community do with regard to addressing the things that we're talking about today? How can they have an impact on the structural disproportionality as it regards benefits and recognition?
Thank you so much, Dr. Branch. And thank you also, Commissioner Cohen. Is there this, can you all hear me? There's an echo. Is it just on my side?
So there is a little echo, yes.
Okay.
I tell you what, I will pivot to Minister Washington for that question, and we'll come back to you. Minister Washington.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's a blessing to be here. Dr. Branch, I appreciate your questions. And I want to thank Commissioner Cohen, Mama V, for inviting me as well. Look, as a Department of Veteran Affairs employee, I can tell you I travel around a lot and I hear a lot of stories from veterans and non-veterans on some of the issues that Dr. Bell spoke of today. She had a great speech today. She quoted some great statistics from the GA report along with VA report. And it's true, indisputable facts. And as a guy in ministry, I always share with people that I grew up in the church and there's a lot of church hurt that happened over the years. And as I became a VA employee and with the food chain here, I recognized that there's also some VA hurt. Many of our veterans are disproportionately marginalized for various reasons. And they also have some VA hurt from various reasons. They had a bad experience coming to one of the 170 medical centers. They had an issue with their submission of their claims. And my message to everyone when I go out is give the VA another chance. And I know that's tough, but give the Department of Veteran Affairs another chance. In response to this specific question, how we can specifically help and what can I do? I would say to everyone that when we ask ourselves those questions about the structural and societal problems, when we submit for claims, I think it's important to use the authorized people that are there to help us get the claim to where it needs to be, i.e. VSOs, Veteran Service Organizations. It's free of charge. And I know many of you said, well, I've used them Congress and I still got a 0% rating, as Dr. Bell mentioned. Go back, don't give up. We have to work harder. As a people of color, that's part of our ancestry, part of our culture, is to work harder. So my recommendation is to continue to use vehicles to submit your claims.
Thank you so much for that response, Minister Washington. I will now ask Ms. Brewington to respond to that.
I'm in the middle of some dynamic people, and I don't feel like I'm honored. Okay, so I honor you, and I say thank you to Ms. Finch for inviting me. And I want to say I love, love, love Mother Vivian DeCoin, because she's not only a minister and a pastor, but she's a light, the light that sets on a hill that cannot be hidden. And I praise God for her. What can I do to make a difference, and what can I do to help? As a mother of a veteran, I understand the difficulties it is for our young people who are coming home to get the services they need. I never knew exactly how to help my son, but I praise God for individuals in the community that were able to reach out. He had to leave New York State, actually, to get his services. And I think he went up to Connecticut to get his services. And I sat down. I didn't understand the reason why he did that. So I sat down, I began to talk with the administrator in the Mount Vernon in the Mount Vernon department over here in the city hall, and we had a lengthy conversation. And her thing is that we and the individuals in the state don't have the manpower they need or the finances they need to put forth to help our veterans. In Mount Vernon itself, I understand it's like they use the word a desert. A desert has an oasis over here. You might have an oasis over there, but right here, you're still in the desert, and you can't see the oasis for the sand and all the garbage that's in your way, and the people who are blocking your path to get to what you need. The finances need to go from the state down to the local municipalities. And we as the NAACP, I can't speak for the general body. I can speak for Kathy Brewington. And we in Mount Vernon, as the NAACP, can stand in the gap with you and yours to make a difference. And how can we make that difference? We could pull you in, you could pull us in, you could become part of us, of the NAACP. Your name and your voice can make a difference, because if you stand with us, we can be powerful, and our voices can carry a little bit further than right here. It can reach to the President of the United States. But we have to stand together. We have to make a difference. So what can I do to help? I invite you into my house. I invite you to join me at the NAACP level here in Mount Vernon. I know Miss Judith is a member. Okay, so I praise God, and DeCoin is a member. Praise God. But where do we stand? We are like 100. We have 250 people strong. If we had 2,000 people strong, we can move a mountain. And we can say to that mountain, get into the sea, like the scripture says. We can move it, but we can't move it if I'm a voice by myself. We can become a choir. So please join me on the local level, becoming an NAACP member, and I'll join you. I tell you, I can shout high and I can sing loud. So if you let me sing with you, I can make a difference with you. Blessings.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Brewington. And so what we have heard so far is we have acknowledged that we have experienced hurt, not only in the church, but in the VA as well. And we have heard that we need to join forces with other organizations who are working for the same outcome. I'd like to now hear from Ms. Watson.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, that sounds much better. So good morning again, everybody. Apologies for the previous issue with the connection. So first, I'd like to recognize Commissioner DeCohen for assembling us today to discuss this very important topic. And also recognize the Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly, as well as Dr. Branch. Now, there's so much to be said with regard to this. There are lots of resources that are out there. I believe Dr. Washington alluded to give the VA another look. There are resources that are available out there that folks are just not aware of, right? Folks are just not aware of, and they don't have access to it because they don't know about it. I travel in circles all throughout the county of Westchester, and I sit on the boards and I say to them, funding becomes available, resources are available, but the problem is they never make it to the intended population. The people never see it, they never hear anything about it, they never receive it, because Oftentimes we're competing against one another, and we're just not getting together. As Kathy pointed out, we're not getting together, right? And making people aware of the resources that are available out there. Now, when I think about the services that we provide at the health center, right? So we've been here for 51 years, providing quality comprehensive healthcare services throughout the county of Westchester for over 51 years. Patients are seen here regardless of ability to pay or immigration status. But a lot of people just don't know about us, right? No one here is turned away. These are the rules that's tied to the funding the federal funding that we receive. Many of the folks are not aware of the services that the VA provides. They're just not aware. So I don't want to go on and on and on, but I say, to Kathy's point, we need to come together and collaborate and put the information in one place so that everyone knows that's the go-to place for this, that's the go-to place for that. So let's start at the beginning. Let's understand what the resources are. Let's put them in one place and then let's figure out where the people are to point them in the direction of the resources.
Amen.
I definitely appreciate that answer. And some of the themes that I'm hearing as I listen to your responses are competing versus collaboration, right? So not to indict a whole system, but our system is built on collaboration. I don't mean, when I talk about system, I'm talking about culturally, so to speak, right? And so we tend to think of ourselves only and not think of others. But what people don't understand, and if they could just allow their way of thinking to expand a little bit, when you compete, what you are competing over is what's left over, right? But when you collaborate, everybody brings something to the table, and there is a feast.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So one thing that I hope everyone takes away from today's talk is understanding that people are not your competition. They should be your partner or your collaborator. And what people should understand as well is that the more of something that you want, the more of that thing you should give. Right. So if you want people to smile more, you smile. And then people just start smiling and they don't even know why. Right. So competition versus collaboration. Another thing that I'd like to raise up is what Judith said is, people don't know, right? And as the child of a PK, I'm a PK, we are destroyed because we don't know, right? Lack of knowledge. And so it behooves us to know, because when we know for ourselves, no one can take that knowledge from us. But if we're relying on people to tell us, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but research for yourself so you know what is out there. So thank you for that. Definitely appreciate it. So the next question that I would ask for the panel is this: what can I do? Right. So again, the three core tensions are driven by the same essential question.
Yeah.
What can I do? But again, when we ask the question, we ask it with the emphasis on a different word in the question that raises up a whole new context, right? And so with the second question, what can I do? The emphasis is on do. And when we put the emphasis on do in the what can I do question, it becomes a question about concrete and actionable steps, and thinking about how abstract ideas and theories can be operationalized, can be put into practice, if you will, or carried out to reduce, to mitigate these disproportional impacts that we as Black and Brown veterans are experiencing. So the question framed in what can I do is this: what concrete actions can community do to enhance the lives of Black and Brown veterans as it regards these disparities? But then tell us also what concrete actions that you are taking individually to mitigate these historical and yet current disparities that we are facing, that Dr. Bell spoke about, and that many of us on the call are probably experiencing. And so I'm going to start now with Miss Watson.
Okay, so what can I do? And for me, this will be a reoccurring theme, right? So we provide healthcare services, right? Primary care, dental care, mental health, all of the specialties that you can imagine, on-site pharmacies. And we also provide these unique services that are called enabling services or wraparound services or support services. And these are specific to the social drivers of health. Many of you are familiar with social determinants of health. It's now social drivers of health. And these are the issues that impact your health, right? Where you live, work, play, worship impacts your health. We provide these services. So whether it be food pantries, transportation, translation, assistance with getting insured if you're uninsurable, and of course, providing care whether you're insured or not. That is what we do as an organization, right? And so that again will be a reoccurring theme for me. And again, we have to do this, we have to do this together. We have to do it together. Lots of well-intended programs are created and everyone is just sort of out there doing their own thing, and their heart is in the right place, but it is all over the place. Put it in one place.
Thank you for that. So I'm hearing centralization and togetherness and the social drivers now, as opposed to the social determinants of health. You know, and I like what you said. And what is so important, I think, about what you said is again, having things central. What is very interesting too, as I'm here listening and just pondering, when we think about charity, right? Before all of the charitable organizations that we have today, and we are certainly thankful for them, charity was the purview of the church, right? And so, in some ways, charity begins at home, home being the faith-based organization. Faith-based organizations, or the church, if you will, was given the command, you know, doing for the least of these. And when you do for the least of these, you render a service to God, right? And so I appreciate that. So centralization, I want to explore how can we get to centralization? Are there any ideas that you can put forth to help us put everything in one place so we're not on this, you know, chicken without a head sort of a thing, running around trying to find this, that, and the other? Because to your point, when we have to run here, there, and everywhere to desperately get the help that we need, and people are not forthcoming and giving it, or we have to run to 50 million places to get it, it can cause somebody to give up, to say, what's the use, you know?
The thing that comes to mind is 211, the United Way's line for calling for any questions that anyone may have. So the United Way has a 211 line. I think of the Westchester County Department of Mental Health Services. They have resources that are available in one place. Certainly for the health centers, and Dr. Washington, this is not to take away from the VA whatsoever, but federally qualified community health centers such as this one, which is the Westchester Community Health Center, There's information about that. We have a primary care association in New York and then the National Association of Health Centers. So there are resources that are available that way. But the programs, the numerous programs that are out there, I don't feel that it always gets to the intended population. And the very last thing that I'll say on this is give a veteran an opportunity. Give a veteran an opportunity. I think a lot of us are uniquely positioned to give opportunities to others that look and sound like us. Give an opportunity. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to hop now to Minister Washington with that same question. What are some actionable steps that community can do, and what are some things that you yourself have personally done?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be brief. I tell you, the first thing I would say is there's something that needs to happen on the inside before we approach any type of outreach, right? And that inside reminds me of a couple of people in the Bible. We talk about David. You know, if David didn't believe that he could beat Goliath, he wouldn't have gotten the slingshot and done what he did, right?
That's right.
Nehemiah, who rebuilt the wall of Jerusalem, he wouldn't have done it if he didn't believe that God sent him to do it.
Amen.
Right? And so here we are in these positions with these titles, right? And I always share with people the titles give us a seat at the table to do the work that we've been designed and purposed to do. And so with that being said, I love Judith when she said centralization, because there are grants. We in my office, we put out bulletins, and in the link, if you go to our website, you can just go to Google and type in VA Center for Faith. You can sign up to see our webinars that we have 3 to 4 webinars each month on a wide array of topics. Veteran suicide every month, veteran homelessness, caregiver program, all these different programs that are available to veterans and their families. For example, let's say you are a veteran and someone's taking care of you, and it could be a mother, father, wife, husband, whomever it is. You may, I use the keyword may, you may be entitled to compensation for taking care of that veteran, but you will never know until you find out and tap into the VA resources. So I would say that we need to have the centralization, as Judith talked about, but we also need to be intentional about how we help each other. When we talk about concrete ways, my team and I, we go out across the nation to do in-person events. They happen on a Saturday, 9 a.m. to about 3 p.m. We have 3 or 4 breakout sessions. We have the local VA medical center come out. We have the chaplain come out. We have local community partners come out and share their services. That's how we take over the community, by working together. And oh, by the way, the VA has an office called the VA Center for Development and Civic Engagement, led by a colleague, Dr. Sabrina Clark, and you can volunteer to help. What does that mean? We want to serve. We serve our Creator by serving each other, right? So we can serve by going to the local VA medical center, no matter what you think of the medical center, right? And find a place where you can serve, become a volunteer transportation driver.
Okay.
Veterans at the main entrance. There are so many things that we can do, concrete ways in our community to reach out. But the most important thing is, what question we need to ask ourselves is, what will bring Black and brown veterans out of the houses and apartments into the community? It's a problem in the church and ministry. People want to have the computer in one hand and coffee in the other hand. How do we get people to come back and fellowship, come back and shake hands and high five? How do we do that? That's the challenge.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Definitely appreciate it. And now we'll hear from Ms. Brewington on that same question.
So it's wrapped around do, as far as I understand do. Christ asked the question, he said, Peter, do you love me? Do. Do you love me? Then feed my sheep. As an advocate, my job is to educate you on the ideas that we all have to be together on accord to make a difference in our community. So pulling our people together, Black, non-Black, I say non-Black because we are all in this together, and we're associating together. And Mount Vernon is this vast community of so many different kind of people. How do we come together and work? Do you love me? Feed my sheep. So I want to go out there and do my best. The young man said, Mr. Washington, Dr. Washington said, volunteer. I'm an advocate of volunteers. I've been doing it for so many years. My children have done it. I want to make a difference, but I go back to Mr. Derek Johnson, who's the president of the NAACP, and he writes, the future of our democracy lies in America's forgotten corners. Who are America's forgotten corners? Our veterans. That desert once again. How do we reach them? I can't answer that question for you. Because even though I'm a mother and a daughter, I'm not Judith. I'm not Mr. Washington. I'm not you, Miss Branch. My job right now is to love you, honor you, and respect you, lift you up, give you a shoulder to cry on, and a handout if you need one. So you were asking a question.
So here's what I'm hearing, and I'm really just loving the conversation. What we need to get back to is our common humanity, right?
There you go.
I think that in this thing called life, and in this thing called competition, we tend to see people not as our fellow human being, right? And so again, just working to change minds and hearts as it relates to who we might be sitting across from. So a question that is an adjunct to the second question that I asked, and particularly because this is a co-hosted and faith-based initiative. When I asked the first question, one of the things that I pulled out of the responses is that charity first began in the houses of worship before we have a lot of the nonprofits that we have today. And not knocking the nonprofits, but there is a role, and again, given that this is Black History Month, there is an active role that the church has consistently played in the movement for human rights, right? For civil rights. And I'm saying the broad category of human rights because we are all human. And if one human is experiencing injustice, there is nothing to say that cannot creep into all humans or have an impact on all humans, right? So how can places like New York State Department of Veteran Services, the VA faith-based initiative, I want you all to speak to the faith-based leaders that hopefully are joining us today and tell them what they can do, how houses of worship, and when I say houses of worship, I'm speaking broadly, not just churches, but I'm thinking also of mosques, because we have veterans who have served that are Muslim. How can we get synagogues? Because we have folks who have served that are of the Jewish faith. If there are Buddhists and folks who are Hindu and any other belief or faith, how do we encourage them, right? Because their members fellowship. How do we encourage these houses of worship to become part of this central hub that Ms. Watson spoke of?
Are you asking an individual or?
Well, I'm going to, whoever wants to hop in first.
I'll hop in first, because guess
All right.
what? Our office here in the VA, we have a program called How to Start a Veteran Ministry, a Welcome Center. It's geared towards all houses of worship. It gears towards nonprofit and community organizations. And as you mentioned, Dr. Branch, it's ecumenical. That means it's for all faith or people who have no faith. The bottom line is, if you are a veteran or you serve veterans, Conrad, me in this office, we want to partner with you. Go to our website. Just go to Google and type in VA Center for Faith. You'll see on our website how to start a veteran ministry or welcome center. There's a pocket guide for it. My vision is in each organization who serve veterans will start a program where veterans can come and connect. It could be coffee, Starbucks, Bible study. It's the sky's the limit. But the most important thing is you serve veterans. We need to get veterans out of the houses, out of the apartments, and have them come to that organization to serve. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, as I mentioned before, we would love to partner with you to come out to have an in-person event. We do all the heavy lifting. What does that mean? We do the flyers. You can't put your logo I can't put our logo on your flyer, but we can put your logo on our flyer. We'll amplify. We will do the all of the work to get presenters who are credentialized, licensed clinicians. We have access to so much here in the VA. We will do all the heavy lifting and the work to have a collaborative in-person event in your hometown. Reach out to me and my staff. We would love to partner with you. And lastly, I will say to you, join our website so that you can sign up to attend our webinars that we have, again, 3 to 4 each month. That's important. There's information there. And oh, by the way, if you miss a webinar, we have those webinars recorded, 508 compliant on our website where the information is still accessible to you, right? So you're never without information because it could lead to something. And when you sign up for those webinars, I just put something out yesterday regarding the $52 million available for people, for organizations who want to sign up for a grant for suicide prevention. So there are opportunities there. And I have more information to share if you reach out to me or my staff. But please, let's get active. Let's do something because in my 20 years in the Marine Corps, if I can remember correctly, I didn't do a whole lot by myself. It took a team to do things. And to piggyback what Judith said, we must work together because we are indeed stronger together.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Watson.
So whether it be Dr. Washington, Conrad Washington, Mr. Washington, Reverend Washington, I can tell you that I've learned so much by just being on this panel with you today. I appreciate everything that you said. And again, I learned so much. So with regard to the clergy that is on, I say this. The clergy is doing an amazing job with regard to your parishioners, right? Just as we at the health center are doing an amazing job with regard to our existing patients. The folks that we need to pay some attention to is those that are not coming to the health center, those who are not going to the church, those who are not going to the VA, those who are not members of the NAACP, Kathy. It's those folks, the difficult folks, and I say it to the folks at the Boys and Girls Club, the kids that are in there, the kids that are in the care of our organizations, they're okay, right? We've got them. We've all got them. It's those people who are out there who are on their own. Those are the folks that we got to figure out how to tap into. And some of what Conrad shared, I think is so important that the VA is actually getting out in the community. And I'd love to partner with you, Conrad. They're getting out there into the community because that's where the need is. It's not in the walls of the church. Those people are cared for. They're protected. They're good to go. It's everyone else. I'm not sure if that answers the question, Dr. Branch, but
Well, I mean, it's all related. So I definitely thank you for that. And just, I mean, I could do this all day, but I'm pretty sure we have other things that we need to do. But just some very important themes that I hear coming from the threads of this conversation that I want to raise up. And it's interesting because, to your point, Minister Washington, when I was in the military, it was not me and me alone, or I and I alone, right? It was a team. And so I remember very clearly in boot camp, and this is almost 40 years ago, if one person's bunk wasn't made right, everybody had to do mountain climbers. And so none of us were fans of mountain climbers. And so whoever could make the bunks the best to make that quarter bounce off of it, that person was assigned to make everybody's bunk, right? Didn't matter if you slept in that bunk or not. Whoever could shine shoes the best, that one made everybody's shoes look so shiny that you could see yourself in it. Whoever could do the gig line the best was the one that made sure everybody's gig line was in alignment, because nobody wanted to do mountain climbers. We were unified in our dislike of mountain climbers, but we were also unified in leveraging the strengths of everybody on the team. Right. But it's so interesting because in boot camp, we are socialized to be teams, but then somewhere along the way, we tend to be very private as veterans, right? Not reach out, not ask for help. And so that seems a little paradoxical and interesting. But what is very interesting that I'm hearing come from the thread of discussions is that in community we thrive, and that is true. But in isolation, we die, right? And so my plea to everyone watching is, if you know someone who is a veteran, form communities with them. It might take some work, but don't give up, right? Give them another chance, as Minister Conrad said. And for those of you who are faith-based organizations, I want you to know that not only is the VA doing something with faith-based organizations and community-based organizations, but New York State is as well. And so the commissioner's vision for faith-based initiatives in the state of New York is to help you set up your veterans and enhance your wellness ministry. She definitely wants us to be in those houses of worship. And when you are having something, definitely let us know, and we will be happy to table with you, come out and bring resources, have veterans benefits advisors there to help get veterans started with claims. So definitely, reach out to us with regard to that, because again, just so you understand how this works. Now, I've been accused of being an economist, but I am not. I am a public policy person with a very foundational background in economics and statistics. And please don't ask me any economic or statistics question. But just the way things work is this. And for those of you who are in business or heads of organizations, the way things work, if there is a pot of money and you don't use all of that pot of money because you found ways to streamline and do things for less expensive, you are not, you may be said, told, well, that's wonderful that you were able to do it so inexpensively, but because you have, we now shrink your budget. Right? And so think about that just in terms of framing arguments for you or framing your thinking. So with regard to claims and benefits, there is a pot of money as it regards disability claims. If you do not, as a veteran, apply for that, the pot of money shrinks because it is believed that, oh, well, everybody's doing wonderfully and nobody needs this. And so we can just move that money somewhere else. And so it's an economic argument, supply versus demand. And when you do not make a demand, the supply argument of the triangle shrinks, right? And so you need to file your claim. You need to. It is imperative. Even if you don't believe that you need it, think more broadly, because there are sisters and brothers in arms who do, right? So that is something that I wanted to just put out there. And now we're going to move to the third question of our discussion. And before I move to that third question, for those of you who are joining us, the chat appears to not be working, and for that I apologize. So if you want to, please feel free to put contact information or other things in the chat, not in the chat, in the Q&A, so we can at least see them and share information once we end the webinar. So now, my third question is this. So the third question, you guessed it, what can I do? But when we frame the question with the emphasis on I, right? The question asks about one's personal readiness and their willingness to engage with regard to the historical and the current racial disparities as it regards Black and Brown veterans in connection to adequate and equitable benefits and recognition for their service, right? So it's very interesting to believe, but interesting to think, but not surprising. We're in the 21st century and we, are still having conversations about this. That's not to say that we've not made any progress. I believe because of leadership that we now have in place, particularly such as Commissioner DeCohen and you, Minister Conrad, and you, Ms. Watson, and certainly Ms. Brewington, who are saying and framing and telling and shedding light on. And for those who are in the in the attendee space who are doing the same thing, we are creating a collective voice, if you will, to raise the issues, the consciousness, the level of consciousness around the issues that are yet persisting. They may have just changed the way they look, but they persist nonetheless. But little by little, we're making inroads, and we should not be weary in well-doing, right? Because in due season, we know we will reap if we don't faint. And so what I will ask with regard to this question is, can you tell us what it is that people can do individually? How can people sharpen their personal readiness? Are there any skills? Are there any things that they can do to help them, in their personal readiness around helping, shrink the disparities gap? What can people do personally, and what have you done individually to do this?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Okay.
So a couple of things there. When we talk about what can people do in their personal lives, you mentioned, Dr. Branch, about acquiring certifications and skills that are helpful. Those are things that they can be used in the community, right? For example, I know some previous colleagues of mine who were psychologists, and so they offered free counseling sessions to people in the community. So there's various things that we can do. And I will tell you that our office, I mentioned before about the VA Center for Development and Engagement, a volunteer office within the Department of Veterans Affairs is nationwide. So in case people didn't know, the VA is the second largest federal agency, right? That's huge, behind the DOD. Over 400,000 employees across the world. And so we have over 170 medical centers across the nation. At every medical center, we have a suicide prevention coordinator. At every medical center, we have a representation of a civic engager leader, a person that you can contact to volunteer. So there are so many things to do. And I know that the VA is large. I know that it's sometimes like a maze, right? But again, I will say, give the VA another chance. Go to your local VA medical center and find out how you can serve through the VA. In your own personal life, it applies because it's parallel, right? In the churches, in the organizations that we have, being part of resource opportunities when tables are being set up, connecting with folks, offering your services free of charge to veterans, and then the small things in life. When you go to Starbucks, how about just saying good morning? You go to Dunkin' Donuts, how about just saying good morning? We can
Always.
talk to people. Those are free things that are free and can uplift someone.
Thank you for that, Minister Washington. Ms. Watson.
So I would say to educate yourself. Educate yourself about the resources that are available out there to help Black and Brown veterans so that you can share that information with everyone you know, right? Information spreads like wildfire. So that's probably the single most important thing that a person could do is to educate themselves. I can tell you, walking away from this, Minister Washington, I know a little bit more about the VA that I can share with anyone who I encounter who is in need of your services, right? So yeah, I'd say that's the single most important thing a person could do. And then what, as an organization, we do is what I have been talking about over the discussion is to provide access to care, access to quality care, which we will continue to do.
Appreciate you. Ms. Brewington, do you want to weigh in?
I would say volunteer, give of your time, give of your finances, give of yourself. And most of all, pray. Prayer is one of those key things. It's free, first of all. It's one of those things that if you cannot make it through the day, meditate. And that's your prayer. You will offer prayer to anybody. As a missionary, I walked the streets, I prayed with people. I took the kids to their nursing homes. I took them to the 42nd Street to feed the homely. I, as a person, I, as a parent, I, as an individual, can do more by letting my light so shine that people may see the good that God has to offer and honor Him. If you, as an individual, share yourself by doing for others and let them see the Christ in you first. Did you understand me? That Christ in you first. I understand people are church hurt, but are you Christ hurt too? What did Christ do to you? He saved you, delivered you, He set you free, He gave you a foundation, He gave you a way in and a way out. So you're not Christ hurt, you're building hurt. But I praise God that I'm able to stand up and be an example, and you're able to stand up and be an example. But most of all, you can do. And that's what I am and I is. Okay.
Definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to now see what's brewing in the chat. No pun intended there, Miss Brewington. We're going to transition now to our chat, and we're a little ahead of schedule, but that's not a bad thing. So let's see if there are any questions in the chat. I'm going to ask my colleague, Miss Lisa McLean, if she would man the, not the chat, I keep saying the chat, the Q&A. And if there are any questions there that are addressed specifically to any of the panelists, or if there are any general questions that any of the panelists would like to take up.
Okay, Dr. Branch, thank you so much. I want to thank Dalka and Shannon because we've been working overtime here, because once you said the chat wasn't working, we are taking a lot of questions and moving them to the chat so everyone can see.
Definitely
So
appreciate you.
I appreciate them and their hard work also. Okay, let's go back. And the Q&A has been busy. Okay, a lot of these, Dr. Branch, is not specific to any one person. So I guess whomever can answer will answer. Um, and we thank Commissioner DeCohen. She has answered some questions in the chat, in the Q&A also.
Amazing.
So here's, I think one has been answered already. I'm just going to go over this. If it has been answered, then you can let me know. It says, one of the common complaints I hear from Black veterans is the Black community doesn't value the Black veteran. Does Mount Vernon NAACP have a veteran veteran affair committee chair? And this is from Ellsworth Williams.
No, but I went to talk to our veterans chair, the veterans administrator on the other day, and she made mention of that as well. So we're going to be putting that out there, and hopefully someone will bite and, you know, step up to the plate. It's so very hard to get people to volunteer because it comes with rewards, and those rewards are behind the scenes, but not necessarily financial. So hopefully if someone's hearing this here and they know that we do not have a veteran chair, would they please step up and make that difference? Make a difference. We're not begging, but we're asking.
So I want to also jump in to also say that Mount Vernon does have a CCVA, a Central Committee on Veteran Affairs, that is headed by Mr. Marvin Green, United States Marine. And Dr. Brewington, we're happy to connect you with that organization because the NAACP under Ms. Hill used to be also a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
See, that's why they call her Mommy Vivian. She looks out for everybody.
Okay, another question from also Ellsworth Williams. Are any of your VA medical centers CEO Black? Same question for benefits.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tony. I don't have that information readily available, but I'm certain that it is available. The VA has an office called the Office of Statistics, and they keep track of all of that. But get with me. You have my email. I know you do, and I can get that and provide it for you.
Okay. This is from Rhonda Higgins. I'd like to know how each of the panelists, I'm sorry, let me start again. I'd like to know what each panelist can do specifically to address the topic of disparity in compensation, racial and ethnic, and what can community members do?
Can you repeat that, please?
She said, I'd like to know what each panelist can do specifically to address the topic of disparity in compensation, racial and ethnic, and what can community members do?
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick. I think the first thing is we need to identify, as so many of us have already said, Judith and Kathy, identify what those resources are. That's important, right? And then try to connect Black and Brown veterans to those resources. You know, for example, when we talk about grants, I think Dr. Branch alluded to, you know, we have webinars on grants, but the question I get when I go across the country and speak, and we have, hey, Conrad, we don't know how to write a grant. But guess what? There are people who, you know, can help you write grants so that you can get, be competitive for these funds. So I think we need to connect people to resources that are tangible, that are helpful, and it's a way forward.
Thank you.
I think it's a great question. I can tell you specifically what we do here at the Health Center, and some of this taps into the previous question in that as it relates to the disparities, health disparities, it's obvious, right? The work that we do in terms of healthcare. But in terms of employment of minority folks, veterans, as obviously I am a veteran working here at the Health Center, working with other community-based organization and educational institutions to have internship and apprenticeship programs for folks to come in here to get them started on a healthcare career track path. You know, that's what we're doing. We're an economic engine here in the county of Westchester, having sites all over. And again, I think it's important for folks to see here, we have a Black CEO, right? This is practically non-existent. There's 75 health centers in the state of New York. There are probably 2 or 3 Black CEOs, Black Chief Medical Officer, Black Chief Financial Officer. And so that's what we do. And we feel strongly. I mean, we're a diverse staff here, but we feel very strongly that we need to provide opportunities for Black and brown folks and give the young people who come in here something to aspire to.
For me, we're an organization that's geared around helping people of color, from wherever you're walking from. So this particular organization, we get pulled together, and we have awesome people in authority. Like we have our Hazel Dukes up there, we have our Derek Johnson up there. These individuals feed into the community what they have to offer. We have our Wilbur. We have our Wilbur up there, individuals that come together and to feed into you. I'm not 80 years old, but so they're giving me a chance, even while I'm still able to walk without a cane, to do this position, to pull people up who are younger behind me to make a difference. So, and for me, it's not. And I tell you one thing, because of my background, I feel that it doesn't matter if you're Black or white. I mean, we have to come together. This is America, and we have to come together to try to make a difference, to try to grow. We don't want another occasion like January 6th to come upon us because we're sitting over here and they're sitting over there. We have to make a difference. We have to come together to get people to register. I'm going off on a tantrum, I'm sorry. We got to come together to get people to register to vote, to get out there, to make their voices heard, because the climate is changing so drastically that people don't want you to have a voice. They're trying to take your voice from, I'm preaching, oh my God. They're trying to take your voice from you. You have to make a difference. You have to stand up, you have to give an account. So please help. So come on over to the NAACP. We're located at 250 South 6th Avenue here in Mount Vernon at the Dole Center. Make your voices heard, make a difference, volunteer. We need you more than we need you more than you need us, put it that way. So please come up and help.
Thank you for that. Any other
Thank you.
questions, Lisa?
Yes, it's one from Gary Hardy. He says, I am a service-disabled veteran owned small business. I provide health and wellness services for first responders, law enforcement, and military veterans. Does your office help with applying for grants? And I'm guessing, Reverend Washington, that might be of geared to you.
Yeah, so I get that question a lot. So we have no grants in our office. We're kind of like I wouldn't say the police, but we kind of direct traffic. People say, hey, Conrad, do you have? So no, we don't house any grants in our office, but I can direct you to where some of the grants may be available to you and what you want to do. So please reach out to me. I have some links for you that'll be helpful.
You know, and so with regard to what Ms. Watson, Ms. Brewington, and even Minister Conrad said, representation matters, right? We are human beings and we have, 5 senses, and we use them to navigate our environment. And so if we can't see something, it becomes a challenge for us to imagine it, right? Or it becomes a challenge for us to aspire to it because there is no representation in the environment of the possibility that exists. Right? So representation matters. And to a point that Ms. Brewington made, Sometimes compensation isn't always monetary, right? Sometimes compensation is intrinsic. It's the sense that you have uh, made a difference in someone's life, right? It's a sense that you are working to create a succession plan, because none of us are here to stay, uh, you know, in case you didn't know. And so whatever is in you, whatever gifts are in you are not for you to keep. They are for you to give away, right? So just want to
Agree.
frame thinking in that way. And so you should be working on the succession plan of who you are going to pour into to carry this work forward. Number one. Secondly, how we identify veterans is so important, right? Because there is this mindset. And again, I am the queen of reframing. I'm the queen of a lot of things, but reframing is one thing. And some veterans are walking around and don't even know that they are veterans because they have a narrow belief of what a veteran is. And so when you ask, you should not ask, are you a veteran? Because someone could very well be a veteran, but has never seen the theater of combat, has never left the United States, didn't serve on a ship or any of that. But they are veteran nonetheless. So you need to ask, did you serve? Right? Because that changes the dynamic of how people can see themselves represented as a veteran slash someone who has served. And so when you are doing outreach, or if you happen to see somebody with military gear, ask, did you serve? And then if they say yes, maybe ask them what branch or, where they served. Because again, there is this narrow definition um, that doesn't allow people to see themselves as they truly are, as someone who has raised their right hand, swore an oath to protect against enemies foreign and domestic, and who is therefore, by virtue of their service, entitled to something, right? So let that be how you make the ask when you are striking up a conversation. Not are you a veteran, but did you serve? What branch? When? Right? And so that will help the veteran in their own mind identify themselves and see themselves represented as someone who has served. Lisa, any more questions?
Dr. Branch, while Lisa's looking for questions, you just prompted something in me in that we have oftentimes veterans have no idea the resources that's available to us or the discounts that we're eligible for. A case in point, I was in Foot Locker recently, and I just said, "You have a veterans discount here?" Just being funny, and they were like, "Yes, absolutely." Like, we don't even know.
That is the truth. And I'd like to call Commissioner DeCohen forward to share her philosophy, I will dare call it, around asking that very question. Madam Commissioner? Okay. So she will chime back in a little bit later if she's able to. But yes, Commissioner DeCohen, since she has joined us, since she has taken the helm of the agency, her vision on the terminology of veterans versus people who have served and how it impacts folks even realizing that they are veterans. And so, she is at the fore of driving that charge about how we ask this question. And she often tells a story about how she was out somewhere in community, I want to say in the northern part of the state, and was speaking with someone, and they said, "Oh, there are only maybe 2 veterans in this part of the country," and I'm of course paraphrasing, but when she then put forth the call, is there anyone who served? People were just coming out in throngs, and it demonstrated very nicely her point that if you ask a good question, you'll get a good answer or a better answer. Ask a better question, you get a better answer. And surely there were more than just 2 veterans in that community, but it was all based on how you ask the question that allowed people to, in their minds, understand, yes, I served. I am, in fact, a veteran.
Yeah, I was going to chime in, Dr. Branch. I always share that if someone took the oath to defend this nation, whether it was for 1 day or 30 years, they are a veteran. Now, benefits are a separate topic, but if you took an oath to defend this nation and you serve an active duty, you are a veteran. I think we acknowledge it. And I think you made a great point about taking it a step further. I always get thank you for your service, and I say I appreciate it. But it's even a better conversation when you ask what branch of service, because each branch of service has their own little quirks that sometimes a veteran feels special. So yeah, I know Marines, we're special. I know we are, but that's important to ask that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lisa, any additional questions?
Yes. I just saw one here. Okay. One is from Cynthia Kirk Barrio, and she is with the Broome Tioga NAACP. And she said, we need help locating veterans of color. Is there anyone in this area who can help?
So let me help you out. So in the VA, it's almost like that phrase, there's an app for that. Well, the VA has an office for that. It's called the Center for Minority Veterans, right? Go Google it, Center for Minority Veterans. It's ran by a gentleman who's a minority, passionate about veterans, and they can help you identify the location of veterans across the nation who are minorities. If that's helpful.
Thank you for that.
Okay, and another one here is from Ty Rob, and his question is to the panel. Are things getting better for veterans of color?
Well, I'm going to say absolutely it's getting better.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's getting better for our people in general. Look at where we were years ago. You have more educated African Americans, minorities, black and brown folks. So it's getting better. But are we where we need to be? Absolutely not. You heard Dr. Bell mention the GA report that came out a couple of years ago that talked about the disparity in benefits. So there's work to be done. But we can also acknowledge that we're better today than we were yesterday. And I smile because guess what? We focus on the negative, but that should be fuel to, as many of you know, to be positive and take action. And that's why we're here today.
I would piggyback on what Minister Conrad said. And before he even spoke, I was thinking about Commissioner DeCohen. And I recently relocated to Mount Vernon. I was not too far from here. I was managing 4 of our 9 sites, 30 minutes north of here. And I've only been in Mount Vernon for 5 years, but the way that she embraced me as a veteran and coddled me and loved me and made me feel so proud to be a veteran, I'm hoping that other communities, so Commissioner DeCohen's counterparts prior to becoming commissioner, counterparts in other parts of the country are doing what she did. because never since I've been discharged have I felt more like a veteran than the time I spent, than the time that I've been here in Mount Vernon as a direct result of her leadership. So I would say yes to the question. I'd say yes, things are getting better. Minister Conrad nailed it. Everything is better in spite of all of the negativity around us. Things are better. And look at all of us, right? We're veterans. And here we are in leadership and other key positions, with a voice and a seat at the table. So yes, things are getting better, in my opinion.
Amazing. What else do you have for us, Lisa? Or Ms. Brewington, do you want to weigh in on any of that last
No,
question?
I'm just taking it in like food. I'm thirsty right now. I'm just taking everything in. I want to do better. I want to make a difference. I want to stand up and I want to be taking account. Like I said, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, and I just want to make a difference for the next person.
Dr. Branch, that's all I see right now. I see some very good comments and information. So everyone, please look in the chat. There's excellent information and resources that a lot of people have shared. But that's all for the questions.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, so now we're going to shift to what I call, I don't know if I want to call it a lightning round, but yeah, maybe I'll call it a lightning round. And before moving to the lightning round, I want to, thank the attendees for, for staying with us, for listening, for, sharing questions with us, and really just being interested in, in raising up this issue and helping to mitigate this disparity, whether you are experiencing it as a veteran or whether you are experiencing it as a family member of a veteran, or whether you are just wanting to make a difference in the lives of those who have served. We certainly appreciate you. And so now we are going to shift to what I call the call to action, right? We have sat at this table, this virtual table. I have been sipping coffee. I don't know about the rest of y'all. But we have been fed certainly with some wonderful information from people who have not been stingy with their time. They have been gracious with their time and very much forthgiving. And so I'm going to call on you to give again. And my question to you, or rather, my ask of you is to give a call of action to everyone here today, irrespective of what their title is, their position is, where they live. Give a call to action to them with regard to moving them from asking the question, what can I do, to moving them to I can do, right? So I'm going to ask first, Ms. Brewington, please charge those who have attended today with what they can do, what they can affirmatively do to help mitigate the disparities that are being experienced still among Black and Brown folks who have served.
It's not a call, but a challenge. I challenge you as individuals to stand up to make a difference, to not just sit behind a desk or make a phone call, but to go out to greet, to meet, to go out to make a difference. If they see you, they can feel you and they know that you care. But if you're sitting behind a desk and you're making a phone call, you're writing a letter, they can't feel you. They can read, but at the same time, they can't feel you. They don't know who you are. But if you touch someone's hand and you represent yourself appropriately, then you can make the difference. And that's a challenge. And I challenge you to make the difference.
Thank you, Ms. Brewington. I'm going to move now to Ms. Watson.
All righty. So I wish that there were more Kathys in the world. Kathy Brewington. I wish there were more folks like her in our world. With regard to the challenge, I say, not unlike the issue of racism and all of the issues that's plaguing the nation, it seems insurmountable. So make it manageable. Educate yourself about the resources that's available to a veteran and commit to helping 5 veterans. That I just pulled that number out of the hat. 5 veterans that on December 31st of 2024, you can check off and say, I helped Judith, I helped Minister Conrad, okay, 5 veterans.
Thank you so much for that. And so we're going to round out the call to action with Minister Conrad Washington.
Look, I got excited when I heard Kathy and Judith, because guess what? I am in Washington, D.C., and I don't sit behind a desk. I'm on the road in Kentucky next week. I go to California, I go all over the place. I love people, probably because I'm in ministry. I'm a PK. I love people, all faith, because love is one of the attributes of the Creator that I serve. So look, just like Judith, I echo her comments. Everyone's capacity to serve veteran is different. Yes. And I don't know where you are in your journey in life, yes, but I highly recommend that you connect with a veteran. And there are many ways to do it. And we talked about some today. A veteran service organization is one way. A church, mosque, cathedral is another way. Find a way to connect. And that's the key word, connect with a veteran. Because guess what? We can give something that's free, and it's called love.
Well, I appreciate that.
My next challenge is, I guess, to go into the Veterans Hospital over there on Boston Post Road and help somebody.
All right. So there is something that all of us can do. And we have been so charged. I want to give this space to Commissioner DeCohen to address you before I close us out. Commissioner DeCohen.
So let me say thank you to all of you again. And certainly the clarion call has been put out in our faith in service to our houses of worship, but also to our places and spaces where those who have served are there, to our employees. Please, we're putting this clarion call out back into our schools and places of education, our college campuses where our student veterans are there, but again, back in our education forces so that our children can learn and see who our veterans are. Please invite us back into your schools for not only for Career Day, but so that those who served can be acknowledged and the students can learn about who our veterans are within their community and spaces. And then I say, lastly, please put your money where your thank you for your service is. Check on our veterans. If you know that there's a veteran who served, who's low in income, that is your neighbor, that may be alone, please take your talent, and your resources to put back into those who have allowed us to enjoy the freedoms that we have. We have come so very far. I can say this as the first girl with eyeglasses in the Department of Veteran Services since 1945. We've come a long way. We have so much further to go. But because of all of you, with your hand to the plow, pushing, some with their hands, some with callous hands, and some with their shoulders, each and every day, for those who've served and their families, you're already making the difference. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Madam Commissioner. I appreciate you. And so I will offer a closing for us today. And again, my heartfelt thanks for all of you who have registered, who have attended, who have participated, who have listened, who have provided questions, food for thought. Your efforts are not in vain. And so I'm going to start off with, is everybody happy?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Is everybody glad?
Yes.
Well, most of you I cannot hear, but I believe that you are
Yes,
happy.
yes, yes.
And I believe that you are glad. And these were two questions that my late mother, Bishop Dr. Mamie L. Raji, would ask after pronouncing or before pronouncing the benediction. And sometimes the sermon that she would preach wasn't the feel-good kind, and it didn't always make you shout, but she always told you the truth. And what we have engaged with today and what we have discussed today is the truth. And by rearranging the words of the core tension, we move from inquiry to implementation, from what can I do to what I can do.
Yes.
And the value of community engagement is that it helps community members like yourselves to become active leaders within the cause. And the word leadership has its roots in Old English, and it comes from the word lethan. It means to go or to guide on a shared journey. Many people mistakenly believe that leadership is a position of power to be lorded over people. But the primary purpose of leadership, I advance, is to guide oneself and others back to the state of humanity as a way of being. And because leadership involves a shared journey and in line with Ubuntu and collectivism, engaging in leadership is essential. And at its root, leadership is action. It's movement, it is fluidity, and it is flux. And in Dr. King's I Have a Dream address, in his mind's eye, he saw movement. How do I know this? Because he declared that he saw water rolling down. He saw justice rolling down like waters. And in this shared journey, that is called leadership. It's not a choice. It's not a choice. Like water, we have to move. We have to grow and we have to learn. Because when water doesn't move, it becomes stagnant and it becomes putrid. And similarly, when we don't move, so do we. So if equity, accountability, justice, and righteousness are to abound, as we discussed today, Dr. King reminded us that power concedes nothing without a demand. And if I can cite myself as a published author, I extend Dr. King by saying, because there are always concessions that need to be made where equity, equality, and justice are concerned, there will always need to be a demand. So when it comes to making demands for beloved community, those of us who have gathered today, my question to you is, will you? The cause of New York State Department of Veterans Services can be summed up in 3 words, as Mama V typically says: find and serve. And part of find and serves involves helping to raise the visibility of veteran status in the minds of those who have served. And we talked about that. Asking a better question, not are you a veteran, but ask, have you served? Part of find and serve is also to raise the engagement and empowerment of community members of beloved community such as yourselves, and community-based organizations and faith-based organizations to be a force multiplier in the find and serve cause. Dr. King and many civil rights icon era leaders have already laid this foundation for our collective co-created blueprint for beloved community. And that foundation calls for access to equitable resources and the unsiloing of inputs. What does it mean to have resources if we can't access them, if we can't leverage them? This also calls for service and looking out for others and not just oneself. The commandment, we are taught, says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And to be sure, your neighbor, beloved community, may not always look like you. They may not always act like you. They may not always dress like you. And they may not always believe the same thing as you. In this case, beloved community is America, the heterogeneously beautiful. And the African proverb, we are reminded, says that if we want to go fast, we should go by ourselves. But if we want to go far, we should go together. A theme that has been over and overstated in today's symposium. The arc of the moral universe is long, and it bends toward justice, we are told. But it doesn't just bend long so. It bends to the will of the just. So the movement is yours and the moment is yours. And Dr. King reminds us life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Dr. King's persistent and urgent question puts to lie the notion and narrative of only looking out for oneself. So everybody knows at least one person who has served. And if you didn't before today, now you do. Well-being in community engagement frame is a collective responsibility and collective endeavor. Find and serve in the community engagement framework, by extension, should be a collective responsibility and endeavor. And it has been the honor of my day to be everybody's favorite moderator, Dr. Leslie Branch. Till next time.